So, I know what it feels like to be labeled, overlooked, and even underestimated. I know what it feels like when your past follows you like a shadow, when your pain is misunderstood, and when your silence is mistaken for detachment. You see, people think they know your story because they've seen your trouble, heard your problems, or watched you fall. But they don't know the weight you carry or the reason behind the choices you made. I do. I walked through that same exact darkness, made some of those same exact choices, and paid a heavy price. But what I've learned and what I'm here to tell you is that your story doesn't end where your mistakes begin. Now, you might feel trapped right now in your situation, in your environment, or even in your own mind. But I'm living proof that there's a way out. Not just out of the system, but out of the mindset that keeps pulling you back in. You're not guilty of being a lost cause. You're guilty of potential, guilty of resilience, guilty of greatness you haven't even tapped into yet. Don't wait for someone to come save you. Save yourself. Rewrite your story. And if you don't believe in yourself yet, just know that I believe in you enough to speak these words to you because I've been there. And if I made it out, you can too. I was 4 years old when my life got flipped upside down. My mother, she was a junkie. She had already gave up my brother, she gave up my sister, and eventually she gave me up too. From what I was told, one day she left me at a babysitter's house while she was out doing drugs, and she left me and never came back. Days went by and I just waited. I was too little to understand anything, but soon enough, DHS stepped in and I went into the system. My entire life was taken away from me, and eventually, my aunt and uncle stepped in and took me in. Honestly, though, naturally, nobody wanted me. I was the extra kid, the third mess that someone else had to clean up. And when my aunt and uncle took me in, it gave me a home, but it didn't give me a sense of belonging. I had a roof over my head, but I still felt like I didn't matter. They were super tough on me and also very strict with me. That kind of abandonment doesn't just hurt, it shapes you. It plants this seed deep inside your chest that says you're not enough, that you're disposable. And even though I was just a kid, I carried that feeling with me like a scar no one could see. I didn't know how to ask for love, so I acted out. I didn't know how to trust, so I pushed people away before they could leave me too. People saw a broken kid, but they didn't see the broken boy underneath begging for someone to tell him he mattered. Being adopted might have saved me from the streets, but it didn't save me from the storm inside. I had questions no one could answer, and without those answers, I started building walls, big ones. I smiled when I had to, but inside, I was numb. That pain, it doesn't just fade, it becomes your armor, your compass, your reason to fight, or your excuse to fall. And for a long time, I didn't know which one I was choosing. All I knew was that the kid who got left behind never really left me. I was the kid who didn't know how to ask for help, so instead, I acted out. I lied, I stole, I broke rules just to feel like I had control. I didn't know how to explain the pain that I was carrying. I didn't know how to deal with the anger inside of me. And most of the time, I felt alone, even when people were around. So I got in trouble. a lot. Suspended from school, trouble with my parents, getting into things I had no business getting into. Every time I got in trouble, it was like the world confirmed what I already believed about myself, that I was a problem, that I was broken, maybe I didn't belong. But what people didn't see was the hurt behind the behavior. I wasn't really trying to be bad, I was just trying to be seen, trying to matter, trying to cope with things that no kid should have to carry. And when no one could hear what I was saying, eventually I started shouting through my actions. Trouble wasn't just something I found, it was something I became. Because honestly, it was the only thing that felt consistent. The sad part is, when you get labeled early, it's hard to shake. Teachers stop believing in you, parents stop understanding you, and soon enough, you stop believing in yourself. I started hanging with the wrong people, not because I wanted to be like them, but because they didn't judge me for being messed up. And that's how it starts. Not with some big decision to ruin your life, but with small, desperate steps to feel something other than pain. And before you know it, the trouble becomes normal and escaping it feels impossible. Eventually, those little crimes, those little mistakes turned into big crimes. By the time I was a teenager, I started committing crimes like burglary, vandalism, um, robbery. But it didn't start there. It started small. And that's what I want you to hear from me. It always starts small. And if you don't check it, if you don't stop and get help, then it grows. And the next thing you know, you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. That was me. What started as acting out turned into survival mode. I wasn't just breaking rules, I was building an identity around rebellion, like it was the only thing I had control over. I thought I was being tough, I thought I was protecting myself, but the truth is, I was digging a hole deeper than I could see. Every crime, every decision, every time I told myself this ain't a big deal, I was pushing myself closer to a place I swore I'd never end up. But when the streets start showing you more attention than your own family, it's easy to confuse chaos with comfort. And here's the truth nobody tells you. You don't wake up one day and become a criminal. You become numb. Numb to consequences. Numb to the future. Numb to the pain you've been carrying for so long. And before you know it, you're not even making choices anymore. You're just reacting. That's the real trap. Not the prison bars, not the ankle monitor. It's the mindset that keeps pulling you back in and convinces you this is all you're worth. And I believed that for way too long, until life forced me to see the truth. But by then, the damage was already done. After I graduated high school, I thought I was finally getting it together. I had my own place, I had an apartment, I had freedom, I had a chance. But then, one day I started getting harassing phone calls from somebody, and they were threatening me, um, talking about guns, talking about kicking my door in. They read me my address, and long story short, I went to their town, and I was on my way to pick up my friends, and they called me one more time, and I pulled into a parking lot as I was on my way to get the friends, and I told them I told the guys on the phone exactly where I was at. So the first car pulled in the parking lot, in the front parking lot as a lookout. The second one come in beside me, and all four doors come open. They start rushing me, and I had already had a gun and a bat in the truck. I didn't I didn't instinctively take it, but it was already in the truck. So as I'm on my way, I just naturally remember, oh my gosh, I have both of these weapons. Like I'm all right. Well, when I got there, I put the bat and the gun on the tailgate, depending on how they showed up, is what I was going to use. Um, they all got out and started rushing me, so I thought I was going to grab the bat, but then the driver reached for his waistband and I pulled the gun and I put it to his head. And in that moment, I felt power. But when I looked him in the eye, I saw fear. But not just in him, in me. Fear of consequences, fear of what came next, fear of the pain I had been running from for so long. Eventually, I let them go. Next thing I knew, I was locked up, 19 years old, no lawyer, no understanding of the law. I thought I was protecting myself and defending myself, but the law saw a criminal, and by their definition, I was guilty. That night changed the entire course of my life. I didn't wake up that day wanting to hurt anybody. I didn't plan to throw my future away. But when fear takes over and survival kicks in, logic disappears. And in that split-second moment, with my hands wrapped tight around that weapon, I wasn't thinking about right or wrong. I was thinking about not dying. But the truth is, even if you walk away alive, you don't walk away clean. That decision followed me into a courtroom, into a cell, and into a label I'd spent years trying to shake. I wasn't a gangster. I wasn't some heartless criminal. I was a scared kid who didn't know how to process life without violence. But the system doesn't care about your panic. It doesn't care about your trauma. It only cares about the facts. And on paper, I was just another young man with a weapon and a story they didn't believe. That was the moment I learned just how fast everything can slip away. Freedom, hope, opportunity, gone with the pull of a trigger. That's the day I stopped being a teenager trying to figure life out and started being a number in the system, a statistic, a case file. Guilty as charged. But what if I told you that being guilty was the thing that saved me? What if I told you that you might be guilty too? Not of crime, but of greatness. You see, we all have a choice. You can let the pain of your past poison your future, or you can use it to fuel your growth. I went to jail and I learned how to be a criminal from real criminals. And when I got out, I used that mindset and it landed me right back behind bars. But behind those walls, something happened. That's where I met God again. I found purpose. I stopped being angry at the world and started working on me. And now I'm here talking to you because I'm guilty. Guilty of surviving, guilty of changing, guilty of rising. The truth is, rock bottom became my foundation. I didn't find strength in the streets. I found it in the silence of my cell, when nobody was watching and I had nothing left to prove. That's where I started rebuilding, not just my life, but my identity. I stopped chasing validation and started chasing purpose. I realized I wasn't broken. I was being refined. And every moment of pain, every mistake, every cold night locked away, it was shaping me into someone new, someone powerful, someone guilty of greatness. So if you're sitting there thinking you've gone too far, messed up too much, or lost your chance, don't believe that lie. If you're still breathing, you've still got purpose. You're just being tested before you're trusted with the next chapter of your life. But you've got to make that decision right here, right now, to stop letting the past own you and start owning your power. Because greatness isn't for the perfect, it's for the guilty ones who rise anyway. Just like I did, and just like you can too. Now let's talk about change. Change is hard, but it's not impossible. I had to face myself. I had to admit that my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to. That's the first step for anyone, especially someone young. Be brave enough to look at your life and ask, is this who I really want to be? You might be misunderstood. You might feel like nobody gets you. You might even feel alone in a room full of people. But I promise you, there is power in your pain, and there is purpose in your story. Real change doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you get sick of your own excuses. It happens when you stop pointing fingers and start looking in the mirror. At least that's what I had to do. I had to own the truth about who I was and who I had become. And it hurt. But that pain, it became the doorway to growth. Because once you realize you've been living a version of your life that doesn't match your purpose, you can either keep pretending or you can change. And real ones choose change, even when it's hard, even when it means losing people, even when it means starting over. You are not your mistakes. You are not your trauma. You are more than what's happened to you. You may have been dealt a bad hand, but it's on you to play it differently. You don't need to impress the streets. You don't need to act tough to be strong. You just need to be real. Because being real will get you further than being reckless. Guilty as charged is not about shame. It's really about ownership. I own my past, but I don't live in it. I carry my scars, but I don't let them define me. I've been through hell, but I didn't come out empty. I came out wiser, stronger, and more focused than ever. And that's the challenge I'm putting on you. Don't just survive what you've been through. Build from it. Turn your pain into power, your setbacks into steps. You don't have to keep proving you're tough. The real flex is healing. The real flex is growth. The real flex is standing tall and saying, yeah, I'm guilty. Guilty of change, guilty of growth, guilty of greatness. You are already guilty. Guilty of being here. Guilty of surviving. Guilty of having a future, if you want it. So be guilty of something that matters. Be guilty of greatness. Be guilty of change. Write your story the way you want it to be read, not how others expect it to end. The world may have doubted you. The system may have labeled you. Life may have thrown more at you than most people could handle. But that alone makes you dangerous to everything that ever tried to break you. So don't waste that strength trying to fit into someone else's version of who you should be. Use it to become everything they said you couldn't. Be the one who breaks the cycle. Be the one who proves that pain can produce purpose. Your story doesn't have to end in statistics, in silence, or in a cell. It can end in legacy. It can end in leadership. It can end in something so much bigger than your past. But that choice, that power, it's yours. Don't hand it over to fear. Don't let your circumstances write your ending. You're already guilty of something powerful. Now it's time to make that guilt count. Pick up the pen, tell the world who you really are, and don't just rewrite your story. Own it.